Hello and good morning for some, good afternoon for others, and good evening for the rest of you. This is Phantom. We are back with Chapter 5 of For the Ones We Love. And hey, 5 days later. I'm on schedule. Anyway, let's get into it. This is Chapter 5, The Vision. The sun rises up, the day renewed, but with it, another trouble brews. The sun rose over Ponyville, and Spike rose with it. He squinted his eyes from the bright light of Celestia's orb. He laid there in its light, basking in its warmth for a while. It was such a beautiful day. The perfect follow-up for last night's event. Speaking of last night, he looked to his side. Rarity had fallen asleep, cuddled up right next to him. Their tails were wrapped around each other and her hoof was stretched across his chest. He smiled at his unicorn. She was so beautiful in the morning light. Her hair was still wet from last night's shower and it bended over her shoulder and eyes. Spike felt the grumble in his stomach. He hadn't eaten it at all yesterday except for that bottle of cider, and that hardly counted as a meal. He carefully lifted up Rarity's hoof from his chest and slowly lifted himself up. His body was stiff and aching from the night before, and falling asleep on the hard balcony wasn't helping his injuries. He slowly cracked his back as he stood up, and looked at his love. She was adorable, just laying there on the ground, her white coat blowing in the morning breeze, the musical pace of her soft purrs. How did he ever get so lucky? He bent down and gave her a small kiss on the sleeping mare's cheek. I will always be there for you, Rarity. I promise. I know you will. Spike was startled as the white mare turned over and stared at him with her sleepy eyes. You call that a kiss? She smiled, grabbing him around the neck and pulling him in for another kiss. His lips were warm and gritty, but she didn't care. She loved her dragon. Spike parted away from his mare as Rarity curled back up on the floor, quickly falling back asleep. After last night and the 5 nights before, she really needed her beauty sleep. Spike walked into the house and headed downstairs. He was not prepared for what awaited him. It looked like a manticore was unleashed into the library. Furniture was broken, food was smeared everywhere, and ponies were passed out, all on the ground. As he saw the mess, only one thought was going through Spike's head. I am not cleaning this up. Spike stepped over Berry Punch. She had passed out in what looked like an empty punch bowl. She really did like her punch. Over by a desk, a purple pony was buried under a pile of books. Spike brushed away a couple of them and revealed Twilight. She had fallen asleep on top of her favorite books, sleeping in a puddle of her own drool. Only you, Twilight. Only you, he said, patting the unicorn on the head as he made his way around her. He heard a loud snoring from above him. Rainbow had somehow gotten herself stuck on the ceiling, as she was laying on it as if she was sleeping on the ground. He decided to ignore it for now, and would figure out how she got up there later. His stomach rumbled as he decided to see if there was any food left. To his luck, there was still a large cake that remained largely untouched. He walked over to the giant cake. It was about the size of a pony, it was so big. Getting a better look at it, he could see the face of a dragon drawn with amethyst crystals and emeralds. Spike smiled as he recognized the handsome dragon. He took a scoop of the cake and shoved it in his mouth. Had Rarity or Twilight seen him eat like this, he would have never heard the end of it. He reached in the cake for another scoop when he felt something odd. It was something furry and soft. Curious, the dragon started to dig deeper into the cake, revealing a round pink flank adorned with 3 party balloons. Pinky? He asked, turning the cake around to see the party pony's head sticking out of the back, her mane and face completely covered in frosting. How she had gotten into a cake and fell asleep in it, he hadn't the slightest clue. Then again, it was Pinky, and he learned it was pointless to try to figure her out. He headed into the kitchen to see if it was spared from the disasters of last night. There were empty bottles scattered across the floor, along with more ponies. Big Mac had passed out with his head in the open fridge, and his sisters were found under the table, where Apple Bloom had fallen asleep on top of Applejack. He looked down on the ground to see a gray Pegasus with her head stuck in a brown paper bag. He bent down and pulled the bag off. Derpy? Hey, Spike! She said rather loudly. She fluttered back to her feet. She was covered in blue and red stains and smelt of berries. That was a great party! She hollered. Keep it down, will ya? He asked, looking at the still sleeping ponies. So, what happened here? Oh, it was so cool! There were so many muffins that I think I ate about 30 of them, and then I went into the kitchen and there were these cool paper bags, so I pulled one on my head, but it slipped over my face, and then it got really dark, so I fell asleep, and then you took it off my head, and it was bright again, so I woke up! She explained as her eyes drifted around her head. Okay, said the dragon, a little confused about what the male pony just said. Yeah, she said proudly, and she looked at the time on the clock.
Oh dear, I have to get to work. Later, Spike, and happy birthday!
She yelled as she flew out the window, shattering it on her way out. It's not my birthday, the dragon tried to say, but the mailmare was long gone. He gave a small laugh as he headed back into the library. It really was a big mess. He decided that he might as well start cleaning, as Twilight would probably make him do it anyways. He headed to the broom closet to grab the broom and dustpan, but he didn't expect to have two ponies fall out of the closet. Lyra got up first, rubbing her head from the fall. Ow, my head. Bonbon rolled beside her, smiling at the two from below.
Morning, Spike. Where'd you go off last night?
Spike smiled at his two friends. I told you, I needed to get some fresh air. I bet that's not all you got, grinned Lyra, helping Bonbon up from the ground. We saw Rarity follow you upstairs. That's all you saw?
Yep. Wait, did something happen between you two?
Well...
O.M. Celestia. Did something happen between you two?
Lyra gave a devilish grin. Congratulations, Spike, she shouted as both mares gave him a big hug. You finally got laid. I'm so proud of you. Ha ha. Is that sarcasm I hear? Well, duh. Have you ever expected anything less from us? Point taken.
So tell us, Spike. How is she in the sack?
Well, actually, Ooh, I bet she's a screamer. We didn't...
Lyra, she couldn't have been a screamer or we would have heard it.
Guys, we didn't... How do you know that? She's so uptight all the time. We didn't... Bonbon rolled her eyes. Doesn't matter. All I'm saying is if it was me and her, I'd make her scream. Really? You and Rarity? What can I say? Bonbon said, grinning at her mare. I have a thing for unicorns. Lyra gave a nasty grin back. Yeah, you do, she said, whipping Bonbon's flank with her silver tail. The cream-colored pony stared into her lover's eyes. Eager, aren't we? What, last night in the closet was enough for you? Wait, what were you doing in the closet? They ignored him. You know how I get in the morning, Bonbon, said Lyra, nuzzling her pony. Guys, what were you doing in the closet? Maybe we need to do something about that, Lai, cooed the earth pony as she slowly started to kiss her lover. Guys! What did you do in the closet? Oh, you know. Just 7 minutes in heaven. More like 7 hours of heaven. Spike cringed as a look of disgust washed over his face. Great, now I have to clean the closet. Hey, said Lyra in defense. We didn't make that big of a mess. And lighten up. It was a party after all. Besides, you did it on the balcony. We didn't do it on the balcony! There was a moment of silence. Oh. Yeah, said Spike. Anyways, since you two are up, can you help me clean this place up? Hey, look at the time, said Bonbon, shaking an invisible watch on her leg. We gotta go, she said, nudging Lyra to the door. Oh, yeah, said Lyra, getting the idea. We're busy. Making out, she said, jumping on her mare friend. See ya, Spike, Bonbon said between the kisses Lyra was bombarding her with. Spike rolled his eyes as the two scrambled out the door. He looked at the closet, and with caution in his heart, he slowly walked inside. Spike was not expecting to see what he found. Fluttershy? The timid yellow Pegasus was hidden in the back of the closet behind the brooms and the vacuum. Her eyes were wide and bloodshot. A look of total terror struck on her face, and her entire body was shaking. What are you? He suddenly realized. They didn't know you were in the closet, did they? Fluttershy quickly shook her head. The things they did. Dry tears were rolling down her blood-cracked eyes. I've never seen a horn used that way before, she moaned before finally passing out, landing face first on the ground with a thud. Poor thing, thought Spike as he lifted the unconscious Fluttershy from the ground and headed to his room. Thankfully, it had been spared from the chaos of the party. He carefully placed the distressed mare on his bed and tucked her in. Fluttershy turned in her sleep as she softly snored. Just as Spike was about to leave, he felt a rumbling in his belly. He felt it crawl up his throat as he burped out the flaming green letter. The scroll landed softly in his hand as he checked the stamp crest. A message from the princess? But Twilight wasn't expecting a letter. He slowly opened to see the letter. To Spike? He scratched his head as he read the letter. Dear Spike, I apologize for mailing this on such a short notice, but it is the utmost importance that you come to Canterlot immediately. I am well aware of your injuries, so I have sent my private chariot for you, and it should be arriving there shortly. I hope that you arrive with haste. Also, it is very important that you do not alert Twilight and the others of this message, or bring them with you to Canterlot. They will be alerted of this situation when I feel the time is right. With ever urgency, Princess Celestia. What's this all about? Wondered Spike, as he folded the letter and placed it on his desk. Suddenly, he heard a loud knock at the door. I wonder who that could be. He stepped over sleeping mares and colts as he approached the front door of the library. He opened the door to reveal two large unicorn stallions, both adorned in royal Canterlot armor. Spike the dragon, I presume, the one guard said. Know any other domestic dragons? It's him, Curbhoof, the other guard said to his partner. Ignoring the other guard, Curbhoof turned back to Spike. Spike the dragon, you are hereby ordered by the royal sisters of Canterlot to report to the castle immediately. Yeah, I got the letter. But could some pony please tell me what's going on? That's classified information, said Curbhoof. Well, then I guess I'm not going anywhere, said Spike, staring into Curbhoof's eyes.
Easy there, Curbhoof,
said a mysterious, yet familiar voice.
I think you're overwhelming the guy.
Wait, you sound familiar, said Spike as he peeked over the two giant ponies.
Well, I hope so.
The two giant guard ponies stepped aside, revealing a smaller, yet still quite tall, white unicorn. His blue mane and eyes were filled with care, and he wore a red military suit with a silver buckle shaped as a shield, with a familiar-looking purple star.
You do work for my sister.
Shining armor?
Yes.
Said Shining Armor, his tone growing less cheery.
And I hope that me being here shows you how dire the situation is, and why you need to come with us right now.
Look, Shiny, Spike said, scratching the back of his head. As great as it is seeing you again, I can't just go to Canterlot. My friends need me. He looked up to the balcony. Rarity needs me.
I understand that you care for your friends,
replied Armor. His tone was only getting more serious.
But we need you to come. We have to start your training immediately.
Training? Train for what? I'm not leaving unless some pony tells me what the hell is going on. The captain does not need to answer a civilian. You're coming with us, even if I have to drag your beaten ass all the way back to the castle. No sooner had Curbhoof finished his sentence, Spike had grabbed him by the throat and pinned his back to the doorframe. I'd like to see you try. That's enough! Yelled the other guard, turning around as he bucked Spike right in his stomach area. Spike fell back, groaning in pain as he released Curbhoof from his leathery grip. You okay, Curbhoof? I'm fine, Duster, he grumbled as he picked himself up from the ground. He just caught me by surprise is all. I see, said Duster. He looked at Spike. I'm sorry I had to do that, but you left me little choice. Forget it. His stomach was killing him from the kick. Call it Dragon's Rage. Shining Armor stepped forward.
If there will be no more interruptions, we should be leaving soon.
Fine, muttered Spike as he picked himself up. Let me just get a few things. Hurry, said Duster. The dragon ignored him as he approached his room. Fluttershy was still fast asleep in his bed, muttering something about a broom handle not being used for that. He shivered at what those two did in there that freaked her out. He grabbed his bag that he used for gem collecting with Rarity and stuffed some random items in the bag. Rarity? How could he just up and leave her after saying he would always be there for her? Of course what would separate them the second they were finally together. There had to be something he could do. But what? Fluttershy snorted in her sleep, and Spike got an idea. He quickly ran to his desk and grabbed a quill and a piece of paper. He quickly scribbled a few sentences on the paper and wrapped it up in a tube. He looked around the room and finally stuck the message in Fluttershy's mouth. Hurry up in there, a hushed voice called through the door. Spike quickly grabbed his bag and opened the door. Kerpuff was standing in his way, his amber eyes focused on Spike. Spike tried to get past him, but he just stood there in his way. Kerpuff leaned into Spike's ear.
If you ever touch me again, I will fucking gut you like a pig,
he whispered. You know, Spike whispered back, I've always wondered what pony tasted like. The two stared daggers into each other's eyes, each refusing to back down. You two ready to go? Asked Duster from the door. Yeah. He forced his way past the stubborn pony. As Spike was heading out the door to the flying chariot that awaited them, Rarity was the only thing that was on his mind. I'm sorry, Rarity, he whispered to himself, looking back at the treehouse. The letter he wrote would hopefully help them to understand everything. He knew that Twilight would understand. It was Rarity that had him worried. Spike had finally confessed his love for her, and she to him. And now he's being whisked away for Celestia knows what. He looked out the window as they ascended into the air. The world better be ending, he muttered, having no idea how right he was. 5 asterisks. Is that 6 this time? Nope, still 5. I think it's always 5. Alright. It was a short trip to Canterlot, and the second that Spike landed on the ground, he was quickly escorted into the royal palace.
Spike, hurry. Your presence is required in the Hall of Elements,
said Shining Armor as they exited the chariot.
Please follow us and we will escort you to the princesses.
The party of 4 walked with haste across the courtyard to the castle. Spike noticed a large amount of ponies in military armor that were gathered in there for drills. That's a lot of guard ponies. They're mostly new recruits, said Duster beside him. The princesses have called all the royal forces and have even ordered a mare and stallion from every family in Canterlot to join the royal army. Damn, thought Spike. Whatever the situation was, it didn't look good. What could be so important that they had to draft ponies for the military? Passing the training ponies, the group headed into the castle. Standing in the hall were 2 tall alicorns, one white, the other nighttime blue.
Princess Celestia? Princess Luna?
Shining Armor said as the 2 other guard ponies bowed in respect. Spike quickly took a knee as well, but felt a sharp pain in his wounded area. Rise, Spike, said Princess Celestia. Her normal happy voice was serious and blunt. She looked to the others. Thank you, Captain Armor. You are dismissed. Shining nodded, as he, Duster, and Kerpuff left the hall. Celestia looked to the dragon. Please follow us, Spike. We have much to talk about. The 2 alicorns started to walk down the hall, Spike following close behind. They soon entered the Hall of Elements, a long room with many stained glass windows that had pictures and designs in them, telling the history of Equestria. You see, Spike, a threat has been made against Canterlot and all of Equestria. You mean like the changeling attack? Luna shook her head.
We fear that it will be worse than that,
she said, walking up to a potted plant next to the only blank window in the entire room.
As you know, we have always ruled Equestria with peace and tolerance, expecting the same from our neighboring countries.
And our legacy can be seen on these very walls, Celestia said, looking around the room. Spike did the same. He noticed lots of the window paintings were dedicated to the princesses and major events that had happened to Equestria over the years. There were stained glass paintings of Discord, Nightmare Moon, and of course some of his friends. He noticed that there wasn't a single one with his picture in it, which annoyed him slightly, but Luna began talking.
My sister and I have been receiving visions of darkness in the future, and that only a lone dragon, a champion among the ponies, would be able to stop it.
She stared at Spike.
We believe that you are our savior, Spike.
Spike couldn't comprehend what he was hearing. Was he the last hope for pony kind? That's impossible. I'm just an assistant, not a warrior. Celestia gave him a grim smile. I think a group of certain dogs would say otherwise. How did she find out about that? Spike was still in denial. Well, it was only a vision. Maybe it's nothing.
That is the reason you are here. We wish to debunk our visions.
As she said this, Luna twisted the pot by the wall. It began to shake as it sunk into the wall behind it. Soon, all the walls in the room began to shift and move around them until a new hallway was revealed. Follow us, Celestia said as she and her sister walked down the dark passageway. Spike obeyed and followed them. The hall was dark and dusty, as if no pony had been down here in years. After what seemed like an eternity of walking in the dark and through countless cobwebs, they approached a large metal door with a symbol of the sun and moon carved in the metal. The princesses approached the door, and their horns began to glow. A beam of light shot out of each of their horns, shooting into the door. There was the sound of something unlocking, and gears shifting as the large metal door creaked open. As they entered the room, they saw a lone box sitting on a table. Celestia approached the box and stood by its side, her sister doing the same.
Spike, this is why we've brought you here. I need you to touch the box.
Spike was dumbstruck. What? You dragged me all the way from Ponyville, from Rarity, who I'd finally got into a relationship, just to touch a box?
Yes.
Alright then, let's get this over with, he said as he walked up and touched the box. All of a sudden, there was an explosion of white light that erupted from the box. He was overtaken by the light as he withered around the room, screaming. The light seemed to crawl up his body and into his mouth. Soon his eyes were shooting out the same colored light. He looked up to the two princesses.
Please, help me!
The two just stood there, observing his every move.
We cannot interfere, Spike. You must do this on your own.
Spike felt his entire body burning, as if it were lit on fire. He started to cough up a strange glowing liquid as his vision went dark, and soon he collapsed onto the ground. The princesses looked at the unconscious dragon.
Is he okay, sister?
He will be. We just have to hope he can pull through.
Luna looked to her hooves.
I still wish we could help him.
I hope he can help us. So much is riding on this dragon, and yet I fear he'll be no match for this evil.
They continued to stare at the dragon.
So what do we do now?
Call the guards and have them take him to one of the bedrooms. After which, he deserves a good explanation.
Very well.
Said Luna, looking back at the dragon.
Sister, look!
She pointed at Spike's neck. A blinding string of white energy formed around the dragon's neck, wrapping around his gullet. Soon the light died down into a golden chain around his neck, with a purple and green heart-shaped diamond attached in the middle.
So it's just as I feared. Sister, shouldn't you be grabbing the guards?
Luna bit her lower lip.
Do I have to? He's so adorable when he's asleep.
Luna!
Oh, lighten up, sister. It's the end of the world. Have a sense of humor.
Celestia rolled her eyes as she followed her out of the cave, leaving the dragon on the ground. And 5 astraces. Spike awoke standing in a shadowy room. He looked around the darkness, trying to feel his way through it. Hello? Princess Luna? Celestia? There was no answer. He walked blindly into the darkness, entering deeper into the shadows. The shadows seemed to shift around him like fog, cluttering his mind. What he wouldn't give for a torch. Wait a second, he said, facepalming himself. He was a dragon that could breathe fire. He took a deep breath and spat out a small green orb of gooey flames. Dragon spit. It ain't pleasant, but it burns. With his new torch, he made his way through the darkness. He continued walking aimlessly in the darkness, when suddenly a demonic laughter broke the silence. Spike turned in every direction, trying to find the source of the noise. It seemed to be coming from every direction. The laugh was getting closer. Spike felt a shiver crawl down his spine as the laughter grew louder and louder. Who's there? Show yourself! Spike lashed his arms around, trying to hit the source of the laughter. The voice seemed to acknowledge him, as it gave a little heckle to the dragon. The shadows around Spike were beginning to get thicker, as they seemed to take on a form. From the black clouds, a large alicorn seemed to emerge from the haze. His coat and horn were the same color as the black fog. His red, snake-like eyes seemed to float in the shadows as they approached the dragon. A razor-white smile cut through the haze as the alicorn finally made himself visible to the dragon.
So, you're the dragon that's going to save Equestria.
He face-hoofed and started to laugh again.
They must be getting desperate. I mean, look at you. You're still a hatchling.
The dragon gritted his fangs. He hated being called baby or anything like it. The alicorn was still laughing.
Oh no, mighty dragon.
The alicorn said sarcastically, dropping to his knees in a begging position.
I've been a bad pony, and I deserve to be punished.
He fell back, hitting the shadowy ground and disappearing in a puff of smoke. What the? Spike looked around to try to see where the alicorn was. He had completely vanished.
Looking for someone?
Said the alicorn as he leaned up on Spike's shoulder. The dragon jumped in surprise as the alicorn flipped in the air, landing in front of Spike. Who are you? Spike raised his hand of dragon spit.
I had a name once.
The alicorn scratched his chin with his hoof.
Back when I was all goody two-shoes and butterfly farts.
Something is wrong with you.
Why, thank you for noticing. But 3,000 years of imprisonment can do that to you.
He span around as he disappeared again. He reappeared floating above Spike.
But I'm getting ahead of myself.
He turned upside down as he stared into Spike's eyes.
So tell me, Spike, do you think you can stop me?
What do you... Wait, how do you know my name?
Oh, I know a lot about you. I know when you were born, that you live with a borderline sociopathic pony, that just last night you finally made it out with your squeeze.
Rarity,
Ah, yes, fair rarity.
he cooed.
I have to hand it to you. You do know how to pick a fine piece of ass.
Don't you ever call her that! He wound up his arm as he hurled the green fire glob at the alicorn, who exploded in green flames.
Really?
Said the alicorn from behind him.
You thought that would work? Now, back to your little buck buddy.
I swear to Celestia.
Let me think. Does she look anything like this?
He asked, shadow forming at his side. Soon they formed the shape of a small unicorn, and Rarity fell from the shadows. Rarity! He ran to the side of Rarity. Are you okay? He tried to help her up. Surprisingly, she slapped his claw away. Get those grimy lizard claws away from me! She scurried away from the surprised dragon and ran next to the dark alicorn. Rarity, what's wrong?
What's wrong, Spiky? Relationship troubles?
He grabbed Rarity's face and stuck his slithery dark tongue in her mouth. Spike fell to his knees as he watched the two. He listened to her moan with pleasure and ecstasy, begging him for more, to do more. Why? I am not making those sounds. I will not do that. Why? She broke away from the alicorn's mouth. Did you really think I could love you? That any pony could love you? You're a monster, you dumb dragon. I would never love such a foul creature. She gave the dragon an evil glance and a sinister smile. A tear rolled down Spike's scarred eye. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. The alicorn walked up to Spike and gently lifted up his head.
Trust me.
His smile grew more and more foul, showing off his sharp white teeth.
It will be.
His horn began to glow red as he got up on his hind legs. He raised up his right hoof as a shadowy red aura in the shape of a claw flickered around it.
Ta-ta, dragon!
He snickered as he lashed at the defeated Spike. Spike winced at what he thought would be his end, but he looked up to see a white shield surround him. The alicorn jumped back as his red claw withered away. All humor from his face was gone.
Well, I may have underestimated you. I didn't realize you stole my old necklace.
Necklace? He looked down and saw a golden chain with a green and purple gem at the base of the necklace around his neck.
Well, I guess we'll have to meet in real life before I can kill you. So, since you'll be living, be a lamb and deliver a message to your lovely princesses, will you?
He didn't wait for Spike to respond.
Tell them that I'm coming for a visit next month. And tell them I'm bringing friends.
He smiled at the stunned dragon. What?
Till next time, Spike!
The alicorn waved at him as he slowly drifted back into the shadows and into the pitch blackness. 5 asterisks! Moving on. Spike woke up with a scream. He was lying in a large silk-sheeted bed in a marble bedroom. Standing over him were two concerned-looking princesses.
Spike, you're awake. That's a good sign.
Spike was still panting from the experience. What the hell was that?
It was a Pandora box, an ancient device that can foresee and communicate with evil. We don't like to use it, as it can have nasty side effects.
So you made me use it? Seriously, what the hell?
We're sorry, but you needed to see it. You needed to see what we're up against.
Luna lowered her head.
I hope you can forgive us.
Regardless,
Said Celestia, stirring the subject back to Spike.
what did you see, Spike?
The dragon scratched his head. The terrible things he saw, the black alicorn, the shadowy fog, and Rarity, his sweet Rarity betraying him, and how the alicorn said it would all be real soon. His neck felt heavy. He looked down and saw the necklace that had saved his life. What is this? He asked the princesses.
It's an ancient artifact. We don't have time for this. Tell us what you saw.
I saw a shadowy land, full of darkness and fog. I was walking around, and then a large black alicorn appeared from the shadows.
By the sun.
The mighty white alicorn almost seemed terrified.
Luna, it's Conquest.
Who's Conquest?
Did he say anything?
The stress in her voice and on her face was clear as day.
Spike, did he give you a message?
The dragon gulped the lump down in his throat. He said he'll be visiting in a month, and that he'll be bringing friends.
No. No, 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 no!
She screamed, thrashing wildly as she bucked a giant hole in the wall. What's wrong with her?
Conquest, or Curator, as he was once known.
Luna, who is he?
Spike, Conquest is our brother.
And that was Chapter 5, The Vision, written by Flim Flam Brothers. Again, I'd like to thank Brad the Browncoat Brony for helping with this chapter, and he's going to be helping with future chapters. So you'll see his contributions in videos to come. Again, his link will be in the description, as was last time. I don't have much to say this time around, so thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next reading. Peace.